What's up, everybody? Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Here we go.
Hi, folks. Bob Mannery here. You're listening to A2D Radio, real sports talk radio for the fans, by the fans, no agenda. These guys are the best in the business. Hashtag it. No notes.
Welcome in, everybody. This is A2D Radio, and we are brought to you by our doc, make him yours, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, location in Burlington and Cherry Hill. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Tom Arnone, Michael Chromiak, and we are joined by the great Rob Maaddi, 21 years in the Philadelphia area, AP writer for the NFL, Eagles, Phillies, host 97.5, author of Faith on the Field, and probably one of the coolest things of all, an MLB Hall of Fame voter. Rob Maaddi joins the show. Welcome in, Rob. How you doing?
What's up, fellas? How you doing? Great to be here with you on this Good Friday afternoon.
Yeah, it's Good Friday. It's Easter weekend, and we can't thank everybody enough for taking the time to join us. We can't thank Rob enough for taking the time to join us. But we'll get right to it, and we'll get to our poll question, which is brought to you by Body Check Wellness, and you can use promo code A2D and get yourself 20% off at checkout. The poll is Jalen Hurts will be the Eagles' starting quarterback in 2021. Do you agree or disagree? Let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. That's where we're live. Everywhere you get your podcasts, we're there as well. Like, subscribe, follow, join the conversation, comment in. We'll try to get to as many comments as you guys bring to the table, but obviously we have a lot of things to talk about as well. So we'll get to everything we can get to. But Jalen Hurts will be the Eagles' starting quarterback in 2021. Everybody's heard my opinions. Everybody's heard Chrome opinions. Rob, we want to go to you with it. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree, and I think he should be. I've been saying, guys, since December, since shortly after Carson was benched and Jalen went out there and played, that I thought that this is a rebuilding football team, that they weren't going to be much good in 2021, that the best strategy to do was accumulate as many draft picks as possible, and they did that by trading Carson Wentz, and they did it by now moving back in the draft. So they even have more draft capital. And I believe that the best thing that this organization can do is find out about Jalen Hurts in 2021. I saw enough out of Jalen to tell me that I want to see more. I don't know if he's going to be the long-term answer, but I don't know that he's not the long-term answer. I think he's got talent, he's got poise, he's got leadership ability, and I want to see what he could do over a full now 17-game season, guys.
Oh, listen, I couldn't agree more. I know Chrome feels the same way. We've been yelling and screaming about it. Not that we were big Jalen Hurts fans or big fans of the pick on when it happened last year, but now the Eagles put themselves in this situation. And when you put yourself in this situation, I think you not only owe it to Jalen Hurts and your football team, you owe it to us as fans too, to say, well, you just traded your franchise quarterback that you paid $128 million to, and you took a $30+ million dead cap hit, which is fine if that's the decision you're going to make. But now you owe it to see what Jalen Hurts is, and you owe it to try to put a football team around him. And being they've accumulated so many picks, in the future, you set yourself up that if he isn't the guy, you can use them picks to go get your guy. And so, that's how I feel about it. And I want to see Jalen Hurts. I want him to prove me wrong, and I'm willing to, eat as much crow as possible because I want to see if he can play and if he is the guy. But we're never going to know that if they trade him after 4 games or go draft another quarterback again.
Yeah, that's why I really liked the trade last week when it came down, moving back from 6. I had talked about this a couple of weeks prior, and I thought if you can move out of 6 and move into the teens, well, they didn't even move into the teens. They were able to get to 12, so they're not even at 13 to 15 yet. They're still at 12, where you should be able to get a high-quality caliber, multi-year Pro Bowl type player at 12, and like we said, accumulated a little bit more draft assets that they could use in the future. I'm excited to see what Jalen Hurts can do. Now, I put out a tweet last week after that trade went down saying that the Eagles are unsure about Jalen. They have been to this point. They've been unsure because at first they thought, well, maybe he can be the guy. And then they saw the last 3 games, and none of it's fair to just pin on him and only him. But I look at they looked at the last 3 games and said, well, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. We still got Carson. Maybe we could work things out with Carson. Well, it didn't play out that way. Then they trade Carson, and before they make that trade last week, they thought about trying to move up. This is a draft in which you got a lot of quarterbacks in it, a lot of high caliber, top-notch quarterbacks, or that's what the experts are saying. That's what people think. A lot of times we see this, guys, and these drafts don't pan out. Like you look a couple years ago and you look at the Sam Darnold and the Josh Rosen draft class, and those guys they clearly didn't pan out. So we don't know what they're going to look like, the 5-6 QBs who are going to be taken in the first round. But they thought about trying to move up, and ultimately they didn't. I think that was the right move. I think the right move is you're not one player away. If you stay put at 6, what are you going to do? Whether you draft Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, or anybody at 6, you're not one player away. You need to accumulate more draft picks. And I thought it was the right thing to do, which is shocking because a lot of us are openly, and so it's always about criticism of the Eagles and fire Howie hashtags and all that stuff. I think he did the right thing.
I couldn't agree more too. Go ahead, Chrome.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of that, Rob, I agree with you in that, I look at it, to me, and I would like to get your insight on this. To me, I think that they probably were looking at certain guys and realized they weren't going to get who they wanted. So it made more sense to move back, right? So my question is less about Jalen being the quarterback in 2021, and it's more about the leash that he's going to have through 2021 going into 2022, right? Because we're talking about the additional capital that they get. And we could potentially be looking at 3 first-round picks in the 2022 draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. Personally, I don't believe if they have 3, they're making 3 picks. No. But, man, a number 1 draft pick or a first-round draft pick really is quite the bargaining chip in terms of the trade market. So if Jalen doesn't progress, and we know that there's a lot that has to play out for, say, a guy like Deshaun Watson without hashing into those details, but that's a name that's been out there. Is it possible that if he maybe progresses a little but not quite at the level they expect, that they're open to making a move for 2022 and going out and getting another quarterback?
Yeah, I certainly think so. I think that this team and this organization places such a high value on having a franchise quarterback that they're going to explore every option. And I think the fact that they were unsure about Jalen and thought about doing it in this draft is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean they're stupid or a terrible organization. I think that's the smart, right thing to do. They don't know. They weren't sure. They thought about it. They looked at it, but then ultimately decided, no, let's see what Jalen can do. And I'll say this, guys, I don't know if it's fair to judge Jalen Hurts. Now, I don't know what he's going to do over the course of a full season in 2021, but if he doesn't have the pieces around him, if the offensive line does not come back healthy, if there's still a lot of turnover on that offensive line, it may not be enough to give this kid 1 season to be able to judge whether or not he can be the future answer at quarterback. Now, of course, if he goes out there and he's completing 40 or 50% of his passes and he looks absolutely like god-awful, then I think you kind of get an indication. But he can go out there and play really well, and they just don't put up the wins because they don't have a good team around him. So I'm not sure if you can have a definitive answer yet on Jalen Hurts after 1 season and 4 games in his rookie year.
Yeah, very true. And the one thing we know about Jalen is he's a great worker. And that matters to me enough, especially at this level. If you're willing to put in the work and you have the want-to be great, maybe he can be great. I'm never going to believe right now I can't believe that he's going to be a great pocket passer. I mean, the proof's there that he hasn't been. Now, when he went to Oklahoma, he threw way better from the pocket, but that's Lincoln Riley's system, and that's the Big 12. You throw the football well in the Big 12, but can he learn how to create his own passing lanes in the pocket? Can he stay in and be more than a one-read and run guy? I do love the fact that he can make plays, right? And I think when we look around the National Football League, the quarterbacks that can extend plays and make plays outside the pocket, they have the more explosive offenses for the most part, because when things break down, they can make a play. So I like that side of him, and I think that can help our offense. But my next question to you, Rob, is we put so many assets into the offensive side of the football over the last, I'll say, 3 drafts. and it looks like more misses than hits. Does it matter what side of the football we go to at 12 or in this draft, or is it as simple as saying take the best guy available because we need Pro Bowl caliber talent?
Yeah, that's a tough question, because I do think with the void, the holes that you have on this roster, having the best player available at 12, it can't hurt you, right? But then you look at that and you go, yeah, well, you need playmakers. But maybe the new coaching staff can get more out of Jalen Reagor. I don't want to give up on that kid after 1 year. Maybe they can get more out of Jalen Reagor. Maybe they can even get something out of J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, right? John Hightower can develop. Quez Watkins can develop. So I don't know that you have to go wide receiver at 12 when there's potential to develop the guys you have, and then also – maybe later in the draft, you get somebody who can make plays there too. So I think you got to get the best fit for this team, the best player. But here's the biggest concern. As we talk about accumulating draft capital and all these assets, ultimately this team hasn't done well over the last 7 years, and that's been well documented. We know Howie's track record since 2014. No Pro Bowl players except Carson Wentz, and he's the guy who they just got rid of. Now, the jury's still out on some of these drafts, right? Miles Sanders can develop into a Pro Bowl player. Maybe Andre Dillard comes back and he shows you why he was a first-round pick. Maybe Jordan Mailata becomes something. Maybe Jalen Reagor. So the jury's still out on some of these. But my concern is no matter how many draft picks you have, how many you accumulate, there's no margin for error anymore. You got to be able to bring in star players, young players who can play on their rookie contract and contribute not just immediately, but for 3, 4, 5 years and go to Pro Bowls, which isn't all that hard to do, and be all pros, which is difficult to do. But you got to be able to bring those players in, and that's how you build and sustain long-term success.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, to piggyback off what we were talking about, the lack of development of the young talent over the last handful of drafts has been a major concern, particularly on the offensive side of the football. And I do feel like you've seen some development with some of the players on the defensive side. So my question would be, looking at the new coaching staff coming in, Nick Sirianni, would you expect, or in terms of what he's shown before and other places he's been, would you expect a little bit more of a better development process with the young talent coming out of the draft going forward?
I certainly hope so. And really, I don't know, guys, because Nick hasn't been a head coach before, right? He's been an offensive coordinator the last 3 years. You have a young, energetic, vibrant coaching staff. So I think that there's the potential to be able to develop these guys. Certainly, you look back at the most recent drafts and you say there were some coaching issues there, right? There had to be some coaching issues there. You've had a revolving door at the wide receiver coaching position. You've had different guys coming in and try to do their part, and maybe that plays into it too somewhat, because you have guys who were talented enough. We saw what even J-Jaw, right? You saw what he was able to do in college, and then he comes in here and all of a sudden he can't do anything. And here's the problem. Like what I saw last year out of the young receivers was they weren't running the routes crisp. They were not following through. They weren't selling some of the routes, and then Carson would end up throwing in interceptions and things would break down. And of course, up front, the offensive line issues that they had. So I certainly think that there's opportunity for Nick Sirianni and his coaching staff to be able to develop the guys and I don't know that they're going to end up drafting 11 guys this year. There's how he's going to be making some moves, right? He's going to be either trading up, trading back, trading out, but to be able to develop these guys. But you got to identify the players who have the talent, and then you got to coach them up. And there really is no more excuses for this team and this organization.
No, and that's my last question, Eagles, for you is how long of a leash does Howie Roseman have, or does he even have a leash?
That's a great question. I've been asked that a lot lately, guys. And when I speak to people around the league and nationally, the opinion of Howie Roseman is certainly different than what the local opinion of Howie Roseman is here in Philadelphia. And I've said this often recently. I don't know that there's a owner-GM relationship in sports, not just in the NFL, but in sports, where the two guys are more in sync and are closer than Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. And for that reason, I think Howie's going to be here for as long as he wants to be. I don't think there's a leash on Howie Roseman, and they can go 3-13, they can go 2-14, and I still think he's going to be here. And he did buy himself some time by winning that Super Bowl in 2017. But I think the way Jeffrey Lurie speaks about Howie is an indication, because he talks about looking at what a general manager can do beyond just the draft picks. And he's right, because there are other aspects to the job, right? It's not just pick players, bring players in. There's certainly other aspects to it, and Howie does a good job in those areas. So for all those reasons, I think he's going to be here for as long as he wants to be.
And that's telling. I haven't heard anybody use that, talk about their relationship and how tight they are, essentially, the why he's going to be here for a while. And for you to say it's the closest relationship in sports, that's a good thing, though, because we always talk about, we want the conversation from top to bottom. It's the only way you're going to win championships and get to where you want to get to if people are on the same page. They just been on the same page, but they just missed together. That's the fair way of saying
well,
it.
It's a good thing, Tom, but it also could leave a blind spot too, right? It could leave Jeffrey over just incredibly loyal to Howie. And we did see 5 years ago when Chip forced his hand that he was willing to do that he was willing to put, as Jason Kelsey said, he put Howie Roseman on the other side of the building. I didn't even see him for a year. Nobody did. We didn't see him for a year, but he came back. He won a Super Bowl. It's a really close relationship, and I hope that they're able to some way put things together. And it ultimately comes down to just picking the right players, having the guys coach them up, and go out there and win some football games.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing a lot of comments. I want to shout these guys out, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. From Jacob and John checked in and everybody else. I appreciate your appreciation. So good to be here.
Yeah. Can't thank you enough. And we'll thank Sean Spielman, too, for hooking up.
Is Sean on there? Come on, Sean. Where are you, bud?
I have one last question, just in terms of football in general. Looking at the division right now, right? I think there's a lot of people who I think, and I don't want to ever knock down people's optimism, but I think realistically looking at this team, we're towards the bottom of the division. So just before the draft, looking as things are standing today, I think Washington going out and getting a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick actually was an ideal guy to fit that roster. You look at what Alex Smith was able to do, stepping in as a veteran. I think that looking at what Fitzmagic was able to do in Miami, I think he just fits them. Who would you say right now, as of today, is the top dog in the NFC East?
It's a tough question because you got Washington being defending champ. Like you said, defending champ at 7-9 isn't saying much, right, though? They were Jalen Hurts being benched away from not making a playoff.
They were a better team in the second half, though. They looked like a different team after half.
I mean, they could have lost that game and had the Giants get in at 6-10. I like Washington. I think the Giants are certainly improving. They're getting better. They did some things in free agency that I thought were like win now kind of moves, and I really like what Joe Judge was able to do over the course, instilling a winning type culture there over the course of the last 6 to 8 weeks in New York. Don't discount the Cowboys. If Dak Prescott comes back and he's healthy, I know they weren't winning games early in the season, but man, he was on pace for like an incredible season, right? He could have thrown for maybe 6,000 yards. He was just having their defense was what was killing them. So if they can get their defense situated, if they can get their defense right, I think with that offense, with that coming back, I would look out for the Cowboys. To me, I would lean towards them being the front runner. Certainly, the only team I didn't mention was the Eagles. I just see them right now as a last place team, as a 4, 5, 6, maybe if things go right, a 7-win team. They have a whole lot more questions than anybody else. I could paint a scenario for you and say, if this happens and if this happens, and if the offensive line's healthy, maybe they can win 8 or 9 games. But I just don't see that happening.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's really drinking the Kool-Aid for us to consider ourselves a playoff team. We all want to do it,
A lot of hope out there.
Tying into the Phillies, I've been saying 90 wins for the Phillies for the last decade too, just because you want to have hope. And my last sports question to you in terms of Phillies or Eagles is, the Phillies will make the playoffs for the first time in a decade. Do you agree or disagree?
I don't think so. I like this team to win around 85 games, but as I did some research the other day, because I was like, oh, I want to say they're going to make the playoffs, but I can't go higher than 85 right now. I just don't feel comfortable. I haven't seen a team win 85 and get into the playoffs in quite a while. So teams have been in the 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, getting that wild card spot. So I think they'll be in the mix. They're going to be entertaining, exciting to watch. As we saw yesterday, their bullpen is much improved to get 3 in the third scoreless innings right out the gate, first game of the season. That's been tremendous. If they can stay healthy and some of the guys step it up, maybe they can challenge for 90, 91, 92. But I certainly think that they're going to be a winning team, which we haven't seen here since the 2011 season.
You know, I think it's going to take a Bryce Harper MVP caliber season to get them to 90, which is possible. I mean, he's got to carry. So we'll see if he can. Before you run, Rob, talk to us about Faith on the Field and everything else you got going on.
Well, Faith on the Field is really a show that I've been passionate about. We launched now 4 years ago on what was then 610 ESPN Philly. It is now on 97.5 The Fanatic, Sunday mornings at 5. We were on 97.9 ESPN Tallahassee recently. We're looking to move into Orlando, Los Angeles, and Atlanta, maybe as early as next month. People can check it out by just going on iTunes or wherever they get their podcast, because we just take the radio version and turn it into a podcast, or faithonthefieldshow.com. So that's something I've been really passionate about and really enjoy doing.
It's awesome. It's awesome. You're doing so many things. I mean, what haven't you done, Rob? We can't thank you enough for your time. I know you said,
fellas.
You said about over. We always go over. So many questions. I got like 42 other questions that we'll get to at a different time.
Hey, anytime, man. Anytime. All right. I'd be more than happy to come on. Appreciate it.
Rob.
Thanks, Rob. It was a pleasure, sir.
Everybody, that was the great Rob Maaddi. Joined us here on A2D. We tried to get to some of your questions. I think we asked the tough ones per se. You know, the Jalen Hurts and this organization, and the interesting side I took out of it was when we knew that Howie and Jeffrey were close, right? But to hear that maybe the best relationship from owner and GM in sports, I think it's very interesting. And I don't want to be like Mr. Positivity on a team that's down, but like we're trying to find like silver linings. They've been bad in the draft. They've been bad at a lot of things. We know, but if there's a silver lining, if you have communication and you are close, maybe you can figure it back out again. Not this year, but maybe in 2 years in 2022, Chrome, maybe this team we can be talking this time, after going into next year's draft saying, we have a legit chance to compete for this division and win it. We could be, or we could be having the same conversation we're having now.
Well, Tom, I agree that there's a lot to take from that, right? And it's something I've said, and I don't say it to be a pain in the ass or be a troll or anything. The reality is I took a step back from let's just train wreck over Howie. Let's just run the train over Howie and really take a step back and look at the relationship, right? Like there's a reason with how many missteps have happened with this organization. There has to be a reason why this guy is still in his position. You can't tell me it's because he's a cap guru, because guess what? There's other positions in the organization that he can do those kinds of things and help out. So when I look at it, and I actually looked at the other end of what Rob was talking about, and that's kind of where I felt is it's the blinders, right? But to me, again, I don't take any accountability off of Howie whatsoever, but that close relationship to me and that ability, in my opinion, for Lurie to control that relationship ultimately is where the issue comes in and the blinders start to come in, the blind loyalty, right? How many times have we seen it where, we get it. You want to there's loyalty, but there has to be accountability. And at what point does somebody hold the owner accountable? Because as close as that relationship is, doesn't sound like he's going to hold Howie very accountable to things. And there's nobody that's going to hold Jeffrey Lurie accountable to anything. So I agree, though. It's why I said last year, like, let's just take that off the table, because we were talking about Doug, Carson, Howie, who's going to go. I never felt like Howie was ever going to go. I always felt like it was one or both of the other two. Mm-hmm. So going forward, I agree with you. This is a tough year now. Let's see what we can do with this. A lot of cap issues, a lot of money to come off the board. And they're in a hell of a lot better situation next year, having 3 draft picks to either make picks and or make trades to acquire talent. Tons more cap space when a lot of that money comes off the books. That there will be, we have to accept now that Howie's going to be the guy who's going to be a part of this rebuild. Now, if that fails in 2022 and 2023, because I expect he'll have that long, 2024, in my opinion, is when you're looking at potentially making a change at the top. So this is where it's at. It's an opportunity. And I agree with you, Tom. You have to have the coach. This is the key now. They have to have Nick Sirianni on the same page as Howie and Jeffrey going forward. Because, again, we're going to start spinning our wheels and seeing the same act repeat over and over. If we can't get top to bottom, as you mentioned with Rob on the air, top to bottom, everybody on the same page and the organization moving in one direction.
Yeah, no, listen, spot on. And they need to hit 4 Pro Bowlers ASAP, in the next 2 years. So, or all pros. I mean, that's what they need to do. I mean, if they want to get to where they got to get to, you cannot rely on free agency. You have to hit picks, and we'll see if they do. I want to have faith that they will. I want to have faith that they'll figure it out. But right now, it's hard to buy in, and as you see, it's hard for anybody to buy in. I mean,
Tom,
same question marks. Everybody.
I'm looking at, again, in my mind, there's 3 more years of the Howie regime, right? So with all this additional draft capital, for me to look at it as a swing from where we're at, you're talking all pros and whatnot and all that. If I'm even going just from rounds, taking out 5, 6, and 7, right? I'm going rounds 1 to 4. Probably day 1, day 2 guys around there. I need a 70% hit rate. And a hit rate is all pros combined with guys who, even if you're a depth guy, you are a guy who comes on the field and makes plays. You're not a detriment, because that's what we've seen a lot of. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, detriment. So many guys that have been drafted over in the early rounds over the last few years have cost you more than they've contributed. And that is where we need to switch. So I'm looking at however many picks we end up between now and 2023, I need a 70% success rate on guys who are contributing. And you're right. And I need at least 5 or 6 of those guys to be all pros.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, everybody wants to use analytics, so use them, right? So use them on percentages of what you need pick wise. And you're right. The later round picks, you're not looking for stars. You're looking for guys that can be great special teamers, can be good backups, etc. That's what you're looking for. But listen, we can't thank everybody enough for joining this afternoon. We can't thank Rob Maaddi enough. I mean, to come on here and give us time, and he said he had about 15, and we went 20 like we do. But we got the good questions out, and we'll have him back on another time. But make sure you guys are checking out everything he's doing. Go give him a follow over on Twitter. I would assume most of you jabrones are already doing that, but if you're not, go do it. Chrome, thanks for jumping on with me.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure with you. Pleasure with Rob. What an awesome guy. Class act.
I'm almost 100%. So it was good to have somebody with me today. But
I got you, Dad.
What do we got tonight? We got Spin Fire, Rachel Blaze at 7, followed by Fan Friday at 9, and then at 10:30, brand new show, Money Pot Podcast. Nate Moss going to help you gambling junkies out there win some goddamn money. So make sure you like, subscribe, follow, join the conversation, and
listless selfless plug for us too. For all you wrestling nerds, WrestleMania next weekend. We have our early WrestleMania roundtable tomorrow night at between 10 and 10:30. I'm not sure what time, but we're starting between 10 and 10:30. We have a bunch of the guys here from the crew hopping on, talking everything WrestleMania, all-time WrestleMania awards, and we're going to do an early preview show for WrestleMania. So make sure you guys check us out tomorrow night here on A2D Radio.
I apologize.
You're good. I got you.
Jacob, I don't know if Rob would be good with that. Said, Tom, do you think Rob will let you combine faith on the field with Clink at the link when you get arrested after they draft the QB? No, I don't know. I don't know if we'll be okay with that. I don't know if my own family would be okay with that. So,
probably not likely.
I think the fan base would be okay with it. I don't know if everybody else would be, per se. But yes, turn your alerts on. Make sure you're liking. Make sure you're subscribing. If you're just jumping in now, the full interview with Rob Maaddi will be up on all our platforms as soon as we hit end here, so you can go back. You can go back and listen to it. But Great job, like always, Cromer. This is what we do. I mean, there isn't a better tag team in the business. If you want to go back to wrestling, you know what I mean? There isn't a better tag team in the business. You quarantine. Name a tandem that did better interviews during the quarantine, and we'll wait.
None.
Michael Chromiak, Rob Maaddi, who joined us, our doc as well. Make him yours, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, location in Burlington and Cherry Hill. Find him on the web. SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. We out. Have a good weekend, everybody.